Hello friends. Once again, this is RJ. And I'm back for another episode of Do-It-Yourself Car Improvement. For today's video, I'm gonna show you how I was able to install a smart engine start and entry system in my vehicle. So let's go. For this installation, what we will need are a control module equipped with a Bluetooth mobile application for Android and iOS users, an automotive 5-pin relay for trunk release application, and the existing centralized car alarm system. Let's begin the installation by dismantling the covers to where the existing car alarm is installed. For ease of installation, we'll use the existing centralized car alarm module and connect the new system in parallel and use the same output connection. In the diagram, the upper section pertains to the existing centralized lock and alarm module. It shows the harness pin connection that we are going to use. What we will need are the module pulse outputs for door lock and unlock, and the 12 VDC power input. Now, let's expose the module and its harness to tap the new connections. Let's start by providing a 12 VDC power supply to the module. Locate the positive and ground pins. You may use a test light to verify that it has a constant supply. Now that we have verified that it has a 12 VDC, splice the red wire of the module and insulate properly with electrical tape. You may use special connectors for ease and better connection. For ground connection, you may use a multi-tester to verify continuity with the body ground. After which, splice them and insulate. Now, for connection with door actuators, we'll use the output of the existing module. Refer to the wiring diagram of the module or verify using a test pen or multi-tester. The signal is just a pulse. It provides a brief voltage on lock-unlock simulation. The white wire of the new module is for the unlock pulse and the black one is for the lock pulse. Just splice them to the existing outputs and insulate. For the trunk release, new module gives a pulse signal in brown wire. If you have existing trunk controls, it may already have a 5-pin relay. Just verify the existing tapping. The negative pulse is connected to one coil of the relay, while the output of the relay, which is positive 12 VDC, is to be connected to the positive terminal of the trunk actuator. The relay terminals are numbered based on its diagram, so don't get confused. The negative of trunk actuator is body grounded. that we already have hardwired the module, it's time to download the application. It is available on both Google Play and Apple App Store. For iOS users, just search for YGD Car Bluetooth and download the application. Once installed, open the application and it will prompt a command to allow access to phone's Bluetooth. To connect with the module, enter the initial password provided in the user's manual. Then, try-click the lock, unlock and trunk buttons. The door and trunk actuators should respond accordingly. And that's it. We have successfully installed the mobile car remote control. For additional settings on the app, refer to the manual. Before I say goodbye, as you can notice, the app has start-stop engine button in the middle. Please do watch the next episode on how to convert the car ignition key to a push-start button and use the mobile engine functionality. Thank you very much. Hello friends! Once again, this is RJ. And I'm back for another episode of Do-It-Yourself Car Improvement. For today's video, I'm gonna show you how I was able to convert my ignition key to an engine push start stop. So let's go. For this installation, what we will need are a control module that will substitute the ignition key and an engine start-stop button. To begin, let us dismantle the cover of the steering stem to access the ignition switch and its harness connector. To do this, rotate the steering wheel. You'll see two screws fastening the cover. Unscrew them using a screwdriver. After removing the cover, install the push button on the holes used by the ignition key. To do this, simply fold the four locks at the back to allow it to enter the hole, then position the button accordingly and fasten by bending the locks along the side. In part 1, we have provided the module with temporary 12V DC power supply. Now that we are going to use its full functionality, let us dismantle the previously attached red and black wires, as we will directly connect them in the ignition harness. Now, detach the ignition harness connector plugged at the ignition key located beneath the steering column. This is where we gonna connect the wires of the new module. Now, remove the plastic covering the ignition key. It has clip on both sides for fastening. We will now start to connect the module wires to the ignition harness. I will splice them individually. I prefer splicing as it is more secure, and I can immediately switch to manual key in case of emergency by simply plugging back the ignition harness. For now, I will directly splice them based on the diagram, but later, I will demonstrate how can you distinguish each wires. There are 5 wires that you need to connect: the constant 12 VDC, accessory, ignition 1 and 2, and the starter. As I've mentioned, you can distinguish ignition wires even without diagram. Use a test light to verify. The red wire should have a constant 12 VDC even the engine is off. The test light should lit at this point. Now, turn the ignition key to accessory position. The blue wire should now have a positive 12 VDC power. Then, turn the key to ON position. The wires white and brown for ignition 1 and 2 respectively should now have a 12 VDC power. To see the difference between ignition 1 and 2, start the engine. The ignition 1 flickers or dims less than the ignition 2 when starting. And the last one is the yellow wire for starter. It only has 12 VDC during starting. Now, connect the orange wire from the small harness to the brake positive feedback of the car. It should only have a 12 VDC when the brake is depressed. Use a test light to verify. Now, connect the black wire of the startup harness to ground. And don't forget that in the small harness, blue wire is for oil pump signal. Just tap it to ignition 1 to facilitate starting. Splice them and insulate. The last and important step is the vehicle steering wheel lock handling method. Get a key duplicate with the holder cut, leave 1mm extension to allow grip of tool. Turn the key in accessory position, and we're good to go. Now we are ready to try the new engine push start button. To do this, depress the brake and the clutch pedal. The button will lit upon depressing the brake. Then, press the button once and the engine will start. To stop the engine, depress the brake and press the button. Pressing the button alone won't stop the engine. As you can notice, I depressed both brake and clutch. That is because for manual transmissions, often a clutch interlock switch is installed and must be triggered before the engine is started, but with this, we cannot enable the remote engine start. Check your clutch, and look for a button or a switch at the back. When the clutch is depressed, this button is also pressed, closing the contact of the switch and enables starting. Now, because we only need brake interlocks for starting, we will bypass this. We will bypass this clutch interlock switch. To do this, simply join the two cables, hence, bypassing the switch. It should now have a continuity even the clutch is not depressed. You may or may not cut the connector as long as you join the two wires. After bypassing the clutch interlock switch, let us try once again through smartphone remote. Long press the engine start button. After several seconds, the accessories will turn on and eventually will turn on the engine. To turn off, just press again the boot. And that's it. we have successfully installed the Smart Engine Start and Entry system. I hope you've learned something for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Please do not forget to like and share.